Hello. Hey Zen Hotties, today we're talking about boundaries. Thank you for everybody who voted yesterday on my poll as far as what to talk about today. I really appreciate it because there's a million things I can talk about, believe it or not. There's a lot of things that go under the umbrella of wellness and mindset that I love to talk about. And sometimes it really helps. I mean, not sometimes, but all the time, it really helps when I hear from you guys to know exactly what you want to hear about. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to start doing that at the beginning of every week, and also just adding a little text box there so that you guys can tell me what specifically you want to know about these topics. So setting boundaries, right? So it's really, really important for your wellness, your mindset, to know how to set boundaries, okay? Because a lot of what I talk about here is energy, and it's one of the main ways to prioritize protecting your energy. I think women in particular have a really hard time setting boundaries, and it's really funny because I have my daughter now, right? She's a little under 2 years, and she's like, her favorite word at the moment is no. Okay, so and it's just funny because I think about this. I know what it is to set boundaries. I know how hard it is for women now to really establish those boundaries and also enforce them, right? It can be really uncomfortable for them. And like, why women specifically, right? Like, it's because, that's how we were raised a little bit. I don't want to speak for everybody, but majority of people, of women and stuff, we were raised to be kind and to be nice and, do these things. So that kind of, our well-meaning parents, wanted to teach us, how to be polite and things like that. And sometimes, and they would make us do things, right? And it was hard for us to, it's just like a hard thing to kind of learn. And I'm seeing that right now with my daughter, because her favorite word is no, but like, she says it for every single thing, even though I want her to do something that is good for her, right? So it's just funny. So now it's like how I'm really trying to be super mindful of it and navigate that, where it's like I give her that ability to choose, and I give her, some kind of, and empower her, to make her choices and to enforce her, and to have healthy boundaries, right? It's like, when, your parent, it was like a holiday and your parents like made you give, your uncles and grandparents like a hug and a kiss and stuff. It's like, I don't know if I'm going to make her do anything that she doesn't want to do in that sense. I want her to choose. So luckily she's a very like affectionate girl. She hugs everybody. So, if that's what she wants to do, then great. But as far as like making her do things that are like, not going to, protect her in some kind of way. Like, don't cross the street, right? When nobody's with you or things like that. But, obviously for her own protection. But as far as like making her do things like making her share, like I just had this conversation with like my family the other day, because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make her share. I mean, it's going to be situational, but, and I want her to know the value and importance of sharing. But if she's playing with something and some kid just wants it, like, I don't know if I'm going to just make her give it up. I'm sorry. Like, it sounds like that kid's problem and that mom's problem, to teach her kid that they can't have everything that they want, So I don't know. I'm getting into parenting here, and I don't want to do that. But it's just like, this is where it comes from. This is where a lot of these things come from. And that's just the truth. So when it comes to setting boundaries, I think the reason that most people have a problem with setting boundaries is because they don't want the other person to think that they are not polite or not kind. There's a little bit of a people-pleasing thing there going on. And, they're just kind of afraid to speak up, So the best way to know how to set boundaries is by knowing the value of setting boundaries, right? Is by knowing, um, thank you. It's like the parenting thing is just like, that's where it comes from. That's where it originates from, right? From, the ages of 0 to 7, like it's kind of what you've learned. That's kind of when you develop how to set boundaries, and it carries on, especially for women, man. Like it carries on throughout your life, when somebody's like, I don't want to get into it. We're going to just talk about boundaries in the sense of like people pleasing and how to just set healthy boundaries with yourself and with your energy. And just being able to just say no. And no is like a full sentence, okay? A full sentence and a half. So, let me just make sure. So yeah, so setting boundaries will be easier for you if you know the value of setting boundaries, right? So right now you might be not so great at setting boundaries, right? So you might like do things that you don't want to do, commit to things that you don't want to commit to. You might overextend yourself, when you don't really want to. All of these things, if you notice, it's like you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. You just force yourself because you want to avoid some kind of pain from other people. But really what you end up doing is that you end up, either way, it doesn't do any good for the other person, and it doesn't do any good for you, because what happens inside is that you really hurt yourself energetically, and you create resentment either towards the other person or towards yourself for not honoring your own boundaries and not honoring what you really wanted to do, right? Thank you. Nice to see you guys. Thank you so much for joining. So, when you set boundaries, right, it not only benefits you, it also benefits the other person, right? So let's take, for instance, a lot of what my business is based on, my wellness business here, is setting boundaries for your self-care, right? So setting boundaries within your time, your schedule, things like that for your own self-care. Okay, so if you say to whoever's in your environment, like, I need this 5 minutes to breathe and meditate or write or do something for myself, and people don't honor those boundaries or whatever, right? It's like you're going to really resent the other people, right? If you're like, I know I set aside this 5 minutes, but this person needs my help, guess what's going to happen, right? Like, you're not going to give yourself what you need, and internally you're going to resent that person, and you're going to resent yourself. You're going to resent yourself for not honoring your boundaries, and you're going to resent the other person like if it's their fault, right? And you have to understand that people that are imposing themselves, I guess, on you, they're not bad people. They really, really are not. They are just, going throughout their life just like you are, and they're trying to conserve themselves, right? So whatever they're asking you for, they are literally just trying to conserve themselves. They're trying to, make something happen. They're trying to figure out something for themselves in their own lives. They're not trying to, impose on your boundaries. They have no idea. So if you're not your own self-advocate for your energy, for your boundaries, right, then you cannot expect other people to just know. And I think that's the problem, is that sometimes we just expect other people to know how much we have on our plate and things like that. And the truth is that they don't, because they have their own lives and they're consumed with their own lives, and that's it. Okay? So they're not bad people. They're not trying to, take advantage of you, or most of the time, right? They're not trying to. They're trying to fulfill something in their own lives, conserve their own selves, their own whatever needs that they have, okay? And you just happen to be part of that if they're asking you to do something, or what so on and so forth, right? So if you're not your own self-advocate for your own boundaries, then it's just, you can't expect other people to do that for you, okay? So that's the first thing. Know what the value of setting your boundaries are, which is you conserve your own energy. You help the other person and you help yourself, right? It benefits both, because you don't resent them and you don't resent yourself. Okay, so for instance, like if I had set aside some time to meditate, okay, and my husband needed something from me and I was just like, okay, like I'll go do it or whatever, like I'm resenting him while I'm doing that thing and he has no idea. He just wanted me to do something or whatever, right? But if I don't set my boundaries and I would not like, hey, in 5 minutes I will do that, okay, that will relieve so much negative emotions around such a simple thing, right? So when you value what boundaries do, which is conserve your own energy and really see the other person, and when you honor yourself, you really are honoring the other person as well. Okay, so let me make sure. Yes, that's the main thing. So yeah, so setting boundaries is the reason like a lot of people don't is because again they don't want to hear the negative response, or they don't want to have a negative repercussion to saying no. And when you realize that you actually are helping the other person and helping yourself in by saying no, then you realize the value in it. And that's really the gist of it. That is really like what it all kind of comes down to, because that's the reason people just can't. They think that the other person wants them to do this, and so they do, right? So, and the main priority, right, is to just conserve your energy, right? It's like if you're feeling overextended, if you are feeling like you're not wanting to do something or whatever, then you just need to honor that, and you are more able to honor that when you really value yourself, right? When you really value your own energy. And I talk about this a lot in my Power Through series, my Power Through Stronger 1.0 series, because that series is all about tapping into the energy that you're creating on your mat, tapping into the energy that you're creating in your life, so that you can create like the life and live the life of your dreams, right? Because there's a lot of things that we do that we can do in day to day to really tap into some very powerful energy. And it's not easy to create that energy sometimes. Okay, so like sometimes that means really working through a lot of negative feelings and limiting beliefs and things like that. And I'm sorry, but that is not easy. It's not easy to, work through some of that work, right? It's not easy to do that work. It's not easy to do, a lot of my workouts, right? But there's a lot of energy that is available there to tap into that you can translate into your everyday life and really like create a life of your dreams. So when you know the energy it takes to create such amazing energy within yourself, then you know the value of it, right? Then you know the value of it for real, because right now you might not have that. You might not have that knowing. You might not have the practice that really cultivates this energy, right? Like I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day, before my daughter wakes up, before my husband wakes up, to cultivate that energy, to prime myself for a very good fucking day, right? So I know what my energy is worth, okay? So I don't let people and situations rob me of that energy, the positive energy that I created within myself, because I know the work that it took for me to get there, right? I know the sacrifices I'm making in order to just achieve a better, higher vibe state, okay? I know what my workouts entail. They are tough. They are tough, and they make me feel really good, okay? So I'm not going to sacrifice that 60 minutes or 30 minutes or however long my workout was for anybody else. I'm just not, okay? My energy is really, really important for my family, for my daughter, for my own life. So overextending myself, right, and not having those proper boundaries, right, that give other people the sense of the value that you give yourself, I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to sacrifice my energy for other people, okay? So I feel like I have like ruthless boundaries sometimes, because I really understand what's my shit and what's their shit. Okay, so and I'm just like not afraid to enforce it. I'm just not, because again, I work so hard for my energy that it's just not worth it. So I think that's kind of what it boils down to, is when you know the value, again, it's kind of how I started, what is how I started, but when you know the value of your energy, because you actually do the work every single day on your energy, then you know how not to get that, you know that it's not worth giving away, right? So when you have established this sense of, value within yourself, within your energy, things like that, you know when somebody's making you or asking you to overextend yourself. Okay, like when you come up to situations and like, maybe your boss is like, asking you to do this and that, and you're just like, wait a minute, this is way above my pay grade, um, like you feel it inside. And when you feel it, you can't deny it. Okay, you can't deny that you're overextending yourself, that it's just not part of what you're supposed to be doing at the moment. So that's when it's your job to advocate for yourself, because again, people are not bad. They are just not you, right? They have their own life going on. They have their own shit. They have their own needs. They have their own wants, and they're going to try to get it. That's it. They're going to try to satisfy that and conserve that as much as they can. So it is up to you, right? Like to impose your own boundaries, whatever that is to you, because they're not going to know. They're not mind readers, right? They're going to just take whenever from whoever they can. They need this thing done. If it's not you, it's going to be somebody else. Okay, so it's not personal ever. It's just a matter of, everybody having their own thing going on. Okay, so if you don't advocate for yourself, then nobody else is really going to do it for you. Okay, and again, don't give away that power. That's you. That's your power. That's your ability. That's your chance to kind of prove your own value, your own worth, if you want to say that. I don't like saying that, but whatever it is that resonates with you, right? So when you know the value, when you actually do the work, right, and you really know the value of your energy, then it's much, much harder for you to, it's much easier for you to conserve your own energy, to honor your own things that you value, right, which is yourself. So, I hope that helps in terms of that. Again, not much to go off of, so I'm just speaking so general about energy. About boundaries, but really that's what it comes down to, is it comes down to your own energy and conserving that. So, and understanding that people are not bad, that they are also just trying to do the same thing. And if it's not you, it's somebody else. So I know it can be uncomfortable to say no, but that's, again, how important it is to know the value of your own energy, because it has to be stronger than the uncomfortableness of saying no. Okay, that's really all it comes down to. Okay, you have to be so sure within yourself that it's just like a no-brainer. Again, it's like sometimes I have ruthless boundaries, because I'm just like, yeah, no, it's not my shit, that's your shit. You handle, I'll handle this, you handle that. And it's easier for me, right? Because it's like, this is it. And I know that if I do something that pushes those boundaries, it's not going to benefit the other person. It's not going to benefit me. The energy is going to be off. It's just going to be off. And it's not going to be fair to them, and it's not going to be fair to myself. What's the point of doing it? There's no point of doing it, because the energy is just not there. Whatever's going to come about, whatever they're asking you to do or whatever, is just not going to turn probably the best results for them, for myself, like for anybody, if I'm overextending myself. So I have really clear boundaries with my clients. I stop work and I start work at a certain time. Sometimes I over deliver, but I always check in with myself. And I say, does this feel good to me? Is this going to serve them as well? Okay. So I do what's best for both people. Okay. So it's always so important to be mindful, because things are situational. It's not just because it's like, oh no, I don't do that. Like, you got to just be like, no, all the time. Check in, say, hey, what's up? How do you feel? Would this make you feel like you're doing something for nothing, or would this make you feel good? Are they going to benefit this? Are they going to appreciate this or not? Okay. So it's always, if you can take it situation by situation, but asking yourself that question, being mindful, paying attention, having awareness of that, and then, asking those questions, getting curious, right? Mindfulness comes into everything I possibly can talk about, because it's such a simple tool. Okay. So asking yourself that question and then really seeing what comes up. Yeah, that, you know what, I feel good about it. Okay, then do it, But if you don't, say no. Okay, and again, that you have so much more ability to say no when you know that it's like what the value is, that it's benefiting you, that it's benefiting the other person, that this is for the good of everybody. That's when you really kind of hone in on the power that you have to be like, no, not for me, not right now, not at this time, or just no. Again, no could be a full sentence, right? So if like you have to cancel plans, for instance, and you're just like, oh my God, this doesn't feel good, I don't want to go, I really should see these people, but I don't want to. Like, the people that also, have proper boundaries, and that are probably at a level that you're at or trying to get at, they're going to also understand. They're going to understand because, like, people in a certain place, they also have proper boundaries because they have, a certain amount of resources. We all have a certain amount of resources, a certain amount of time, a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of money, a certain amount of all the things, right? So if they're not careful, right, if they're not mindful, if they're not like intentional with how they're giving away those resources, then they'd be depleted. And that's it. So your boundaries are really just there to conserve one of your main resources, which is your internal energy. I'm not talking about like the energy you use to run or whatever, but like this like internal state, right, that makes you feel good or makes you feel bad. Okay, so saying no shouldn't make you feel bad if you know the value of feeling good. Okay, so I know this is a big roundabout way, but it really comes back down to this first thing that I said. Know the value of your energy, and you'll know the value of protecting and setting those boundaries, right? And enforcing those boundaries. Okay, so think of the costs. Like if you haven't worked on your energy, if you don't, do the things to cultivate it every single day. I mean, first of all, check out my link in bio. And second of all, right, if you don't do all those things, so you don't really know, then just check in with yourself. How is this going to make me feel? It's very simple. How will this make me feel? Okay? Can I say no? If I say no, is it going to make me feel bad? Is it going to make me feel good? Is it going to be is it just uncomfortable? Like, asking yourself these questions, right, gets you down to what the real like root of the thing is, right? So it's either like, oh, I just don't want them to be mad at me or whatever. Then is that enough, right? Is that worth how you're going to feel afterwards? Okay, so again, it always goes back down to like the energy, but weigh it out. What feels good to you? What's worth it to you? And then go from there. All right, you guys. Thank you for joining me this lemon water and words morning. And let me know what your biggest takeaways were for today. Love to hear from you, and let me know what you guys want to hear about for next week. And if you really want to cultivate that energy, you want to learn how to set those boundaries, check out my link in bio. Power Through Series Stronger 1.0 is for you. We use hand weights and resistance bands for the workouts, but most importantly, the mindset coaching is all about really creating that energy and translating it into your life to create the life of your dreams and start living it, and also protecting that energy so that you can, keep it going, right? Setting those boundaries, setting the things that are worth your time and are not worth your time, worth your energy and not worth your energy, right? Worth your peace of mind or not worth your peace of mind. All right, Zen Hotties, I will catch you guys next week.